Zongyuan Zoe Liu joins me now from San Diego. She's a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, the author of Sovereign Funds, How the Communist Party of China Finances Its Global Ambitions. Let me just ask you about the 2023 government work report, which stresses securing the food supply. Can you talk about how important that is for the government to kind of recognize the importance of this issue in that way?
Yes, absolutely. And Mike, I would have to say, this is not the first time that the Chinese government, as well as the party leaders, emphasize food security. If you look back, starting from 2004, actually every single #1 document, which is the first piece of policy statement issued every year. So starting from 2004 until now, every year, #1 document has been highlighting food security and the issue related to farmers. So from that perspective, this year it is policy consistency.
So from 2004, I mean, that's going back quite a while, over like 20 years we're talking about. So how do you measure food security, and how will China address this?
So there are a varieties of ways to measure food security, and scholars normally don't agree with each other. And this is one area where scholars don't necessarily always agree. But generally, the most commonly accepted standard would be using import dependence versus domestic self-sufficiency. So basically, it is a measure of to what extent a country, in this case China, would import or dependent on imported food, such as grains and edible oil or vegetables or pork.
And the country's looking, as I mentioned, to technology to try and improve farming efficiency. How do you see that working, and how will that support these goals that you're talking about?
That is a great aspect, I would have to say, because on the one hand, China right now, from food self-sufficiency perspective, faces two problems. The first one is degradation of farmland, and more specifically, if you look at the most recent farmland statistics from 2013 to 2019, actually China lost more than 5% of its farmland. So that is a lot of land being lost, meaning if you wanted to improve your domestic food sufficiency, you literally would have to have land, right? So that is a major challenge. And then secondly, the other challenge is that, because of urbanization, a lot of farmers, they are more interested in becoming migrant workers working in the cities for reasons such as higher wages or better opportunity for their children. So if you do not have enough farmers to plant the vegetables or the greens, you are going to have a problem. Therefore, reliance on food technology really is critical to continue improve China's food self-sufficiency.
And looking inward, looking for more domestic output, if you will, I know that we've done a lot of stories here about the relationship with China and Iowa in terms of soybeans, and then during the trade war, a lot of those farmers were really feeling the effects of that, whereas China was turning to other areas for soybeans. Where do you see this impacting, trade in a sense? If China does go more the domestic route, who stands to benefit and who's going to be hurt by this?
I mean, Mike, that is a great example, I would say, especially soybeans, because, starting from the 2018 U.S.-China trade war, the escalation of the trade war actually cost U.S. soybean farmers a lot, because it used to be the case that the United States was the largest soybean supplier to China, and now, because of trade war, China started to diversify, and diversified a lot, actually, and now, the largest soybean supplier to China is Brazil. So from that perspective, it is a market share loss for U.S. soybean farmers. And if we just look at from a global perspective, I would say China's heavy dependence on imported food, broadly speaking, is not necessarily a good sign, because even if China can continue to diversify, the global commodities market is one global market, and the idea that the price are going to subject to geopolitics and other reasons. So from that perspective, China is not necessarily going to be fully sheltered from global commodity market changes.
Fascinating insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.